Hi all, we're just going to get ready in about a minute or so. We'll wait for everybody to log on and then we'll get going so we're not monopolizing your evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Is it just me on?
No, there's a few of you. We're just waiting one more minute and then we'll get going here.
Sure.
I'm just going to set you to mute here, and
Okay.
if you need to unmute yourself, feel free.
Sure.
All right, so I have 4:01 Mountain Time on my watch here, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Thanks everybody for attending the action plan and voluntary self-assessment presentation. Hopefully you've landed in the right place and that's what you're here for. If not, run. No, I'm just kidding. We'll try and make it relatively quick and painless. Yeah. I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping items. The session is going to be recorded, so it will be emailed out to you later this week or early next week. It will probably have some additional resources regarding some items that we've talked about today as well. You will note that everybody's automatically muted right now, so if you don't mind just staying muted until you've raised your hand for a question, that would be ideal just to eliminate any feedback. Questions. If I've done my job right, I will have ideally answered all your questions when creating this presentation. That's probably not likely. There will be a couple spots I will ask for questions at that time. So we'll try and hold the questions off until then, but if you do have something pressing, feel free to use the chat function, and Roz is monitoring that. There's also a raised hand function, so when I open the floor to questions, if you feel comfortable, feel free to do that as well. Timing, I know it's a Wednesday evening, so I'm going to try and stick to around an hour. I don't anticipate it would take more than an hour and a half at the very most. So yeah, we'll hopefully get you guys out of here pretty quickly. This is the first presentation I've done in quite a few years and the first webinar ever. So go easy on me if you can, and we will get to it right now. But now, okay, there we go. So introductions. My name is Megan Friesen and I'll be the presenter. I'm a rental assistance officer from the agency. As you heard me mention, I am in the Calgary location, and I've been with the agency for about 10 years or so. I have my colleague here, Roz, if you want to introduce yourself. Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot.
Hi everyone, I'm Roz. I've been with the agency for about 4.5 years now, and I'm working out of the Toronto office.
Thanks, Roz. So she'll be monitoring the chat and watching for hands just in case I can't catch them with the setup that we have going on here. Our agenda. So today, what we're going over is the why and benefits of the action plan, requirements, focus areas, some examples of goals, how to log in. We're going to do questions before the live demo. We'll talk about next steps, have a further opportunity for questions, and then we're going to do a draw and talk about the feedback survey. So why is the action plan a requirement? As you guys may or may not remember, there was a lot of oversight under the old operating agreement, capital expenditure approvals, you needed approval to change management companies. If you were taking out loans, you required approval. So CMHC wanted to eliminate that But to receive funding, they are asking housing providers to actively participate to support strengthening the housing sector, and that's including improving their own long-term operational practices. So the progress made will help achieve the program's overall objectives of strengthening and stabilizing community housing and increase the efficiency of housing providers. As you guys may know, there is the National Housing Strategy, and basically that was for a strategy put in place for all Canadians to have a place to call home, safe, affordable. The benefits of the tool. So the self-assessment and the action plan are a planning tool. They are specifically designed for housing co-ops, so for you guys. The answers to the self-assessment questions are meant to prompt you to think of goals that will help strengthen your co-op. You can easily report annual online updates with a few clicks of your mouse. The notes from the self-assessment section can carry forward to the action plan and can also be converted to goals. The options within the tool will ensure that you're creating a plan that meets requirements under your agreement. So when we do a live demo a bit later, you'll see that there are set focus areas, so you won't be able to really go outside of those too much, which means that you'll have a plan that follows the requirements. The plan is also saved in a centralized location. So that's where the agency and the co-op can access it. So as we know, sometimes the board will change or staff changes. The plan will always be there and the agency can always provide access to the action plan if you guys need it. Sorry, I feel like I'm speeding along here, so I'm gonna take a breath. Roz is shaking her head. She's trying to give me positive reinforcement. So the requirements. The co-op must have at least one goal in the 4 key focus areas. Those are governance, social inclusion, financial viability, and asset property management. There's also an additional optional section, which is regarding sustainability. The plan was due initially 12 months after joining the rental assistance program. So that would have been the anniversary of the agreement date. Because we had some struggles rolling out this action plan online platform, there was a filing extension to August 1st, 2022. So Roz is going to put this in the chat, but for co-ops with agreement start dates of September 1st, 2020 to July 1st, 2021, your new action plan filing date is August 1st, 2022. So that means if the co-op signed and started the agreement within that time frame, that their due date is now August 1st, 2022.
Just one thing, if you're not sure when your action plan is due, you can always reach out to your rental assistance officer and we can just confirm the due date, because I know it's a bit tricky with the ranges and the date changes and all that.
Absolutely, thank you. I wasn't going to go into that a slide later. So another requirement with the program is to provide annual updates. Those are going to coincide with your fiscal year going forward. It will be online and it can be something as simple as this goal that we made is in progress, or this is where we're at with this, etc. There is going to be a requirement for a new plan every 3 years, and those will be due 4 months before expiry. We'll talk a bit later about reminder emails and expectations kind of surrounding that and how we'll work with you to achieving those goals. One thing that is probably the most important thing about all of this is that the funding is not conditional on achieving goals. So the funding is conditional to you being in compliance with your agreement. So that means filing the plan and providing yearly updates, but the funding isn't conditional on achieving those goals. So if you are super ambitious, you do 10 goals and you don't achieve any of them, you don't come anywhere near anything, that's fine. Your rental assistance is not dependent on that. So when we talk about the key focus areas, we're talking about governance, social inclusion, financial viability, asset management, which is property management. And then you'll see that there's also an additional optional area, which is environmental sustainability. This is optional and can't be the only goal that the co-op adopts. This was an extra goal that the agency put in place, or an extra category that the agency put in place, I should say. So if you did want to include a goal in environmental sustainability, that's a tongue twister, you would just have to make sure that you have another goal in another area. We're going to go into more regarding these key focus areas and the definitions and what they mean to the co-op in the next few slides. So governance. All of these key focus areas are outlined in Schedule D of your legal agreement. Just so you guys are aware, it is in the actual agreement that the co-op signed back when they started the rental assistance program. Governance is referring to the oversight provided by the co-op's board with the aim of ensuring that the organization remains economically viable and achieves its social mission. My goodness. A housing provider is well governed when its board fulfills its fiduciary duties, operates in a transparent and accountable manner, and sees to it that effective management is in place. So that's what we're referring to there. Social inclusion is the process of improving the terms on which individuals and groups engage in the community, improving the ability, opportunity, and dignity of those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. So when we're working towards social inclusion, that means that we're finding and using measures to reduce barriers that restrict the resources and opportunities of disadvantaged groups. Financial viability is the ability to generate sufficient income to meet operating expenses and loan commitments and save for future capital needs to maintain housing in good condition. This can include activities such as adequate rent revenues, housing charge revenues, and financial planning and operating cost control. You'll see that asset management and property management are somewhat intertwined with the program. Sometimes it will be listed as asset management and sometimes property management. We are trying to get that unified as the agreement does say asset management, but just so you know that we are referring to the same thing when we're talking asset or property management. So that refers to the sound practices in place to manage the assets from which a co-op derives its income. And again, the optional key focus area is environmental sustainability. This is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So goals. Co-op sets the goals. What does that look like? It's really whatever works best for the co-op, whether that be you decide a couple of board members are going to fill out the self-assessment or go straight to the action plan, whether you want the whole board to review everything together, whether or not you may loop in a coordinator, it's completely up to the co-op. This is set to be a plan that will be useful for you, so it really is whatever works best for you. We did have some questions about whether or not we would recommend getting the membership involved. I don't know exactly what that would look like, especially with a deadline of August 1st, 2022. But it might be something that you wanted to either create a special committee for going forward, or maybe even present the action plan in your annual general meeting. Again, those are just some ideas, but just to give you guys some ideas there. The milestones set for each goal can be 1, 2, 3 years or longer. We'll see a bit more of that when we go into the live demo. The goals can be postponed, changed, or deleted. And again, this is no risk to the rental assistance or funding. On the next few slides, we're going to go over some potential goals that the co-op may consider. This list is not comprehensive at all. There's lots of things that we've left out of it. We do have a sample goal list that again just has some ideas to maybe get you guys thinking about what your co-op may need, but it's completely up to you whether or not you want to adopt any of those or if you want to come up with your own. So examples of goals, governance. So an example of a goal could be to review your rules, your bylaws, or policies. Obviously, there was major changes when you changed from your old operating agreement to your new rental assistance agreement. Excuse me. So you may want to look into reviewing your overhousing policy. If you don't have one, you will want to look into adopting one, whether or not you have a subsidy or rental assistance policy, and maybe an arrears policy as well. That is just some ideas of that. The board could look at meeting with committees in order to discuss strategic planning. You could look at board training through your local co-op housing federation. I know that's a really great resource, as sometimes the transfer of information when boards are changing isn't always ideal. You could also look at creating a new committee to review a specific issue. Some examples that would fall under social inclusion would be to look into using a universal design when making modifications. And what we mean there is taps and fixtures that are accessible, single lever. You could look at improving accessibility to co-op entrances, for instance, installing a ramp. You could also look into improving accessibility for those with visual impairments, braille signage, that kind of stuff. Maybe even barrier-free parking for those who need it. Another item on the list is to make use of CHF Canada's reconciliation toolkit to review the member approval process. I know that a lot of co-ops in my portfolio have quite a lengthy process, and obviously Alberta's economy is a roller coaster. So that was a major thing that we got co-ops looking at, was the member approval process. And okay, maybe if we're competing with the private sector, we would want to speed the approval process up a little bit, rather than have us review applications at the next board meeting next month. So that's something that can be an option. You can also conduct an accessibility study at the co-op as well. There is some preservation seed funding that's available with CMHC, so that would be an eligible activity for that. So you could get a grant for that. Financial viability. So you could update your building condition assessment. Generally, we recommend these get updated every 4 to 5 years. There is seed preservation funding available for this as well for a lot of technical reports. So that might be an option for your co-op if you know that yours is a little bit older than that. It's a good opportunity to try and get some grant funding and implement that into your action plan. You could also adopt a long-term financial plan. You could plan for annual housing charge increases, reviewing contracts and tender for contracts. So stuff for an elevator, if you have elevators, landscaping, interior work, HVAC, etc. Review the contracts. You could review your unit turnover procedure, determine capital reserve contributions, and apply for a grant. When we talk about grants, there are a few that are available right now to co-op housing that I'm aware of, and Roz, correct me if I'm wrong. We have seed preservation funding. This is through CMHC. So this would be for any technical reports that the co-op is looking at. So environmental site assessments, building condition assessments, if you need a mold assessment, all sorts of stuff like that. There's the co-investment fund. This is quite an extensive process. So you may even want to have a goal to reach out to a CMHC representative to see if your co-op would be eligible. They have pretty rigorous sustainability requirements. So That could be an option. There's also the CHF Canada micro grant. That's usually once a year. I don't think I've heard any rumblings about that quite yet, but yeah.
Yeah, there might also be some provincial or municipal grants that are available in your area. The ones that Megan is talking about are just through CMHC, well, and CHF Canada, but they're the ones that would apply across the country.
Thank you. So asset property management. You could look into developing an asbestos management plan, conducting annual unit inspections. This has likely been a bit tricky due to COVID, but it might be something that the board might want to look at again and getting back into. Improving curb appeal could be a goal. Improving co-op system for work orders, updating or developing a fire safety plan. Environmental sustainability. The co-op could review I'm having trouble with words today. Review specifications for toilets and appliances to ensure the co-op is installing sustainable fixtures when older fixtures are beyond repair. You could track water consumption over time and develop ways of reducing water consumption. Create a sustainability committee. And as we've mentioned before, apply to CHF Canada's Greener Co-op Micro Grant. Again, apply to Preservation Fund, and that's the one through CMHC for an energy audit. And look at retrofit lighting at the co-op to be more efficient. There's also other improvements like low flow toilets and shower heads, LED lighting, etc. So as you can see, there are a lot of options that the co-op can look at adopting, and there's many more that we haven't covered. So it's just really what works best for you. How do we access this plan? Well, it is via a personalized login link, which was sent back to the main contact that the agency has on file back in March. So if you yourself haven't seen the link, it could have been sent to a property manager, maybe your coordinator, or even another board member. You can always check with your rental assistance officer. The same username and password is used that would have been used for Chase. So again, a similar page that would look like this, where you would access annual reports and legal agreements. If you don't have that, which we know boards change, information doesn't always get transferred, the rental assistance officer for your co-op can help with that as well. Okay, so there's two pieces of the module, and when you log in, you're going to see two different options. There's the voluntary self-assessment questionnaire, and that is in place to assist with developing your action plans, to answer questions that help you explore your operations. And the answers to those questions can then help you build your action plan. There's also the second module, which is the actual building of the action plan. So to talk about the voluntary self-assessment questionnaire a little bit more, it is, like the name, completely voluntary. It's an excellent tool to highlight areas for improvement. You can complete some or all questions. I do say that with emphasis because I think there's 150 questions. So it might look a little bit scary when we open it, but again, you can choose to answer 5 questions. You can choose to answer 10, 20, whatever you want. You can log out, go back in, answer more questions. It's completely up to you, and you don't even have to do it at all. So really, it's just a tool that if you're wondering as a co-op, what should we look at doing next? It will try and highlight some of those areas. So, like we've talked about, a lot of these things, you would complete however many questions you wanted in the questionnaire. You could save and come back later, and you can add notes as well. The questionnaire compares your answers to these targeted questions to your first overall thoughts of where your co-op is at. It provides a summary, and then it helps you build the action plan. So next we're going to do a live demo, but before I carry on, I do want to ask if anybody has any questions yet.
We don't have any questions waiting in the chat.
Okay.
And I don't see any hands. So I think if we don't see anything in the next minute, then we're probably okay to go ahead to the live demo.
Okay, so you guys feel free to raise your hands. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and move on over to a different screen in an ideal world. Oh dear. Okay, share. Can you see my Chase login? Okay, great. So your co-op, like we said, would have received an email with a specialized link that's specific to your co-op, and you would click the link, it would pull up this page, and you would enter your username and password. Again, I know that these aren't always accessed, and we're doing a bit more online probably than we have in the past. So if you need the username and password, your rental assistance officer can absolutely get that for you. This is a demo site, so let's all keep our fingers crossed that everything will work properly. I did test it earlier today, but it's been a little finicky. So yeah, we'll just log in and see what happens. Oh, it was taking a minute there. I thought I jinxed it. Okay, so you will log on and you will see this page. If you scroll down, you'll see that there's quite a few areas that are currently grayed out. I do want to reassure you that these will not become ungray for this specific link. The reason being is that obviously there's quite, oh, we have a hand from Colleen. Did you want to ask a question, Colleen?
I'm sort of following along with you, and when I log into that link, my page looks nothing like that.
Oh, okay. And it's the specialized link that someone from the agency would have sent you?
That's what I was told by my office.
Colleen,
Okay.
is there a button that shows build your action plan in a list and it's at the bottom of the list?
No, the only thing it does, I get the welcome, and it's our co-op. It says Woodland Park, so that's our co-op, and it's just the welcome page. It's welcome to the agency's client website is what I got.
Oh, I think that's probably just generic Chase. Is it on the top? Is it like gray and blue coloring? And does it give you an option to see agreements or reports?
Yes.
Okay, so that wouldn't be the specialized link. That would be the
Perfect.
yeah, Chase. That would be the Chase that we were kind of talking about before, where you would go to access your annual reports from us and your legal agreements. There's copies of your legal agreements there.
Yeah.
So what they did with the action plan was created a separate link for it so that it's completely a separate module, although the login page does look very similar, well, identical. So it's a bit confusing. Roz can maybe send you your specialized link. Is that what you're looking at, Roz?
Yeah, I was going to try and see if I can find it so that I can send it in the next couple minutes, hopefully.
Okay, perfect.
So
I'll just watch along. I'll just follow along then. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Colleen. Okay, so when you log in on with the specialized link, not to be confused with the other Chase access, you will see this page and everything will stay grayed out. So you're not going to be, or whomever has the username and password and the link is not going to be able to see what unit 105, who may be receiving rental assistance, is currently making a month, etc. They're not going to be able to see the rental assistance calculations. They will just have access to the two options, which is to start your self-assessment, the optional, and then to build your action plan. So we're going to go into the lengthy assessment, but don't forget, it's completely up to you if you want to complete 5, 10, 15, 20, however many questions you do want to or have time to complete. And it's not intended, this isn't intended to create work for you. It really is just intended to help your co-op identify some areas that they may want to develop a bit better. On the main page here, via each drop-down menu, there's going to be that definition that we talked about before. This would probably be a good place for anyone that just wants a little bit of a refresher, because there are 5 questions in the beginning of the assessment that are going to ask how you think your co-op is doing in these areas. So I lied. You do have to answer the 5, but then the self-assessment is however many questions you do want to answer. But here you'll see the definitions for each area. You can review them and then start the self-assessment. Again, it's asking how well do you measure up in these areas? That's what we're going to next. We're going to hit continue. So the first question, and all of them will actually be similar to this, governance. Rate how well your co-op measures up against this standard. So you are going to decide, oh yeah, we're pretty strong in this area. Fairly strong, but there's more we want to do. We have strengths in this area, but weaknesses too. We have work to do in this area, or we have a long way to go in this area. So you can answer whatever you'd like. The next one would be the same question for social inclusion, whether you're strong, but more work to do, have strengths and weaknesses, know you have work to do in this area, or have a long way to go in this area. So I'm just going to answer whatever for these. Same idea for financial viability, same idea for property management. If you do want to go back up and think, oh no, actually in property management, we're doing great, you can go back up and adjust your answer there. And once you've completed those 5 first thoughts, you're going to come to a page that summarizes how you've indicated you're measuring in these 5 categories. So a long way to go, fairly strong, and you have some work to do. So if you wanted to go back and revise your answers, you absolutely can with a return function, or you can select that you're ready to move on. Ready to move on is going to take us to the actual questionnaire. So if you take a look on the pane over here, you will see the 5 categories, the 5 key focus areas. There are some that have drop-down menus, and that's because we've tried to group questions referencing a certain thing, like the board of directors, the members, the co-op. We've tried to group them all together. Some categories like social inclusion don't have a drop-down menu, so it's just a whole bunch of questions for you to answer, sift through, skip, whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to go through and show you guys some questions and we can answer them. So the board of directors takes steps to support a vibrant cooperative community, let's say some of the time. The board of directors oversees the financial and physical well-being of the co-op most of the time. The board of directors hires, supervises, and evaluates property management, we'll say no. The board of directors understands and fulfills its duties as an employer. If it has its own staff, we can say no here. You can see that you can decide to skip questions like, no, we don't want to answer these, or no, they don't apply. And then you can also toggle to other sections. Like the board of directors meets regularly with most of its members in attendance. Let's say not often, if ever. And if you are going through this process and think, okay, you know, I want to remember that, that is a pretty straightforward goal that I think everyone would be in agreement of, and we can easily navigate through, you can create a note. So sorry, I think I went through a little bit fast there. So, okay, let's do members are offered education and training on cooperative matters. There's a bit of a current glitch right now where you can't go directly back to where you were. And the team is aware of that and they are working on that currently. So members are offered education and training on cooperative matters. Let's say not often, if ever, and we want to create a note that references this. We click on the little note icon, create note. We're going to select the focus area that we were in, which is governance. We're going to enter the note details if we want. You can enter anything here that you'd like and create a title. Education and training, let's say. You can choose whatever you want in here. You can also add way more details if you want, or one sentence, a few words, whatever's going to remind you and prompt you when you're reviewing the note at a later time. So if we create note by selecting the button here, you'll see that this is saved on our screen here. So then you would go back. Maybe you want to look at financial viability and take a look here and start answering questions here. If you wanted to do another note kind of talking about the co-op keeping housing charges high enough to cover its costs every year, maybe you know that the co-op runs deficits every year, haven't done a housing charge increase in quite a few years, that could be a note that you might add as well. So again, you would click the note button, create note, select an option for the focus area, and let's say raise housing charges is the note title. And you create the note. So one thing about this is that you can absolutely go out of it and come back in, like we talked about, to answer questions at a later time. It does save the progress and it will save your answers. You would just kind of navigate out back to the beginning, and then you would be able to access the action plan here. Then when you logged in next time, you would see that there's an option to continue the self-assessment. So I think I'm just going to answer a few more questions here just to give us a better picture when we go to the summary. Again, this is not mandatory, this is completely up to you. But now you'll see that we have your original first thoughts, which is what those 5 questions were related to. And then based on the questions that you've just answered, what you're technically at or where there might be areas for improvement. So that's this page here. You can go further, and this will outline areas where you've said you've had work to do. So it's going to highlight the questions where you would have chosen an answer that maybe is not the best case scenario. For instance, the board of directors takes steps to support a vibrant cooperative community. We answered some of the time. The system's going to identify that maybe like you could do a bit better there. So that is going to be what is happening on the left-hand side here. It's a little snapshot of what you answered. This page is also downloadable. So back on the beginning of the page, and I will go back and highlight that. We can download these so that you have access to these. I mean, you'll have access to them on the online system as well, but if you wanted something physical, a physical copy, you could absolutely go back and download these and have a record of the areas that were kind of indicated where there is some improvement needed. There's also a list of the questions you haven't answered. So holy moly, who has time for 87 questions on governance? That's pretty heavy duty, but we do have a couple co-ops that have done them. Again, it's completely voluntary. It's up to how much time you have. And if you feel like governance is something that you want to learn more about as the co-op, you could absolutely go through and just take a look at the questions. If you click the drop-down menu, it's also going to show you all of the questions and that there was no response indicated. So from here, you can decide to mark the the self-assessment as complete. This is up to you. You're able to delete the self-assessment and go back and start another one. So I think once you mark it complete, you might not be able to edit it any longer. So just keep that in mind if you didn't necessarily want to go back and start a new self-assessment. Maybe you guys put a lot of work into this one and answered quite a few questions. Mark it complete when you're sure that maybe nobody else wants to review it or take a look. And that's that. From here, there's a couple ways to build your action plan. You can either build your action plan from here, or like we saw when we originally logged in via that link, we just saw the option to start the self-assessment plan or build the action plan. You can start it there as well, or even up here, there's an action plan word here that you can click on as well. So what you will see when you come to your action plan is start action plan. Ours is saying continue action plan right now because this is a demo site. So I'm going to click on this. And you will see that it has pulled those notes that I had created from our self-assessment, as well as other items that I'm just going to delete. So when you go into your action plan, one of the ideal things is that it is going to pull a note here. So whatever notes you took are going to show up as a note, and you'll see that this little icon is indicating that it's a note. If you click on it, there is an option to either delete the note if you want, or to convert it to a goal. You can add more notes. Maybe you can decide you want to change the title to something else that makes more sense for you. Whatever you want, you can completely edit it and then save it. But let's try converting it to a goal here. So when you select convert to goal, it's going to pull the focus area. It's going to pull the title as well as the goal details. If I'm thinking, oh, this is great, this is perfect, I'm going to try and convert it to a goal, it is going to ask you and prompt you to select a time frame. So again, this is not something that the co-op is tied to at all. It is asking for whether you think this might be completed in year 1, year 2, year 3, or beyond year 3. It's completely up to you. You can select year 1. You can select the status of as well, whether it's not started, started, halfway done, or mostly done, or done. You can decide you want to add more details to the goal, or specifically for this one, maybe you want to say that offer membership, or maybe even offer board training once a year or something like that. You can then convert it to a goal. So what happens now is you can see that this is now indicating the icon here that this is now a goal. So like we talked about, the co-op needs one goal in one of the 4 main focus areas. And if they do want to complete a sustainability goal, they will need an additional goal still in one of those 4 main areas. So you would need 2 goals. You can have as many goals as you want. You can have 1 or 2, depending on your focus areas. That's just something that we want to highlight. There's also an option to filter by. So you can filter by goals or notes. Let's say you did 20 goals. You're really excited about this, wanted to get them all filled in. You can absolutely filter by goals and just see the goals and go back to all to see all. One button that we want to use cautiously is the create focus area. So we have 5 focus areas. I think a lot of what goals might be decided upon will fall in one of those 5 focus areas. If you feel like there is something that is not encompassed, Roz and I were kind of talking about the possibility of development. Maybe you're looking at developing some land that the co-op has. You can create a focus area, and that's by creating a name for it, entering focus area details, let's see, developing land, something like that, and then hit create. What that will happen is when you go into create goal, is when you select your focus area, you're actually going to see a 5th item. So let's go into now creating a new goal just from scratch. You don't want to use any of your notes. You decided you want to opt for creating a completely new goal. this is the screen that you're going to get. So again, it's the exact one that you'll see when you're converting a note to a goal, but none of the fields are auto-populated, obviously, because you're creating something brand new. You can select any option here. Let's say property management, year 2, and the status is started. Our goal title can be unit inspections, start up unit inspections. Again, make a schedule. There we go. 2 sentences. You have a brand new goal. It's under the property management field. So this is enough to cover the action plan requirement. Once you guys have decided that, yes, this is what we want to submit, this is what we are happy with, you can review the plan. It will give you the headings and then your goals under said headings. And you'll see that there's only 2 now, obviously, because that 3rd one was the note. And then you can submit. So let's go back, and I just wanted to also show you the download function here. This is something that was in the works, but it's newly functional. And so I'm hoping you guys will be able to still see my screen here. I see Roz nodding, yes? Okay. So you'll get your printable action plan summary with your goals, your goal title, your goals detail, all the words that you've entered here, the focus area, your timeline, and whether or not you've started it and what the status is
Again,
currently.
we're just seeing your browser, which is blank. Is there a PDF?
It is. Let me see if I can share that. It's keeping me on my toes. Oh, okay. Share. Can you see it now?
No, we just see the action plan screen.
Oh,
Is it on your other screen?
no. Let me try again. 3rd time's a charm. Let's see what happens. Okay, hold on. Ta-da!
Yes, we can see it now.
Yay! Okay, great. So here's what would happen when you selected the download function. There's the action plan summary, and you'll see a list, your co-op name, your goals, the goal title, the details that you've entered surrounding the goal, the focus area that it's in, the timeline, and the status. So whether or not it's started, in progress, what have you. This is something that I was thinking if you guys wanted to get the membership a bit more involved, that you would maybe want to include in your annual general meeting package, but it's completely up to you. I am going to try and open the self-assessment download for you as well, because I think that one is a great resource. And let's see if you guys can see that. Yes, okay. Getting the hang of this. So self-assessment first thoughts. This is a snapshot of everything that you guys entered when you were doing the self-assessment, if you chose to do so. It's going to give you the statements and your answers to the statements. So again, these were the areas that highlighted where there might be a little room for improvement. If you didn't answer any questions, it's going to look like this. And yeah, again, this is something that you can use as a resource for yourself, for the board, for your coordinator, whatever you think would be useful. So, okay, I'm going to get out of this and go back to our presentation. Before maybe I do that, does anyone want me to go into anything further in a demo mode? You can raise your hand or comment in the chat.
I don't see anything thing in the chat. I think you.
I hope I'm not boring everyone and that I'm just actually answering all questions as I go. Fingers crossed, guys. Okay, let's get back to business. Share screen. Okay, can you see the live button now? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so like we talked about, there are annual review and updates required. What the agency will do is send auto reminders each year for the annual update, obviously before these are required. You'll also get a 3-year plan update, and we'll send a reminder 6 months before the due date. When we say the yearly updates, we're really just looking for a quick update of the status of each goal. It's not intended to create work like you guys saw. It's a pretty intuitive system. I'm not super technology savvy, as we've seen here today, but I do find it really user friendly. So it shouldn't take more than 5-10 minutes, I would anticipate, to just do your update. One thing to note is that the new plan will be due 4 months before the expiration of the old plan. So the new plans that are required every 3 years are going to line up with the co-op's fiscal year end. So it will be due 4 months before the expiry. And again, we will be sending those reminders surrounding that. All right, to recap, let's just talk about the steps for everything. Determining the filing date. When is the action plan itself due? You can absolutely reach out to us if you have any questions surrounding that. Reach out to your rental assistance officer and we can double check the filing date for you. You can complete the optional self-assessment questionnaire if you so desire. Again, that's up to you, that's up to your board. And then you can build and file the action plan by the due date. There are some co-ops that have completed their own version of an action plan, and if that pertains to you, please ask your rental assistance officer for help on how to submit it online. All right, any questions now? Proof of life? No? Okay, that's good.
While our attendees think of any questions that they might have before we wrap up, I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have a Facebook group for the rental assistance program. So if you're a staff person at a co-op or a director, we welcome you to join the group, where sometimes we post some updates that are we're a little quicker to post them in the Facebook group. It's a little bit easier than sending an email to everyone. So you might get a little bit more information from joining the group. Of course, if there's anything that you need to know, we will always let you know outside of the Facebook group. It's not our main way of communicating with co-ops, but we do have that group as an add-on. And then I also wanted to give everyone our feedback survey on today's session. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. And we will also include the link to the survey in the email that we send around with the recording of today's session.
Yes, if I did an okay job, my name is Megan, and if I did not, go for Gertrude, Gertrude. Just kidding. To show our appreciation for you guys doing this on a Wednesday evening, we very much appreciate it. We're going to do a virtual door prize. So, oh, I think I have to change my screen again. Oh man, I'm gonna be great at this by the end. Stop sharing, share screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
My wheel? Okay, here we go. Augusto A.
I am not sure if they attended today.
I did see his name at
Oh,
one
okay.
point,
Okay,
her name.
good. Excellent.
So maybe they just signed off when I started singing. That could be a thing. Great. So thank you guys so much for attending. And like we said, there'll be an email sent out maybe later this week or early next week with the recording and some further information, as well as the survey link if you don't want to do it right now. I get it's a Wednesday evening, maybe close to dinner, maybe close to 1 o'clock, whatever it may be. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to receiving your action plans.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.